Hello? Oh, Mr. Sponsor. Yes. Hi. Oh. Uh-huh. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I understand. Thank you. Yes, thank you. I understand. All right. Yes. You too. Okay, thank you. Bye. Okay, so it looks like it's about that time. If you've watched the previous couple of building the arcs, you know that I have covered exclusively opening arcs. Well, that's because this show has a structure, one that is directly modeled off of my patent-pending Super Shonen Master Arc structure-y thing. Yeah. Despite the grandeur I give it, it's just a modification of the classic 5-act structure you've seen in high school English class. Instead of exposition, rising action, climax, denouement, and resolution, the Super Shonen long name thing I made up goes intro arc, shit gets real arc, come down arc, mid-series climax, death arc, and final arc. Not every series falls in this exact format, but it's made up of averages that can be seen across the multitude of shonen manga that I've encountered. I already explained what I believe makes a good opening arc in the past few videos, and I will explain the others when we get to them. As for the Shit Gets Real arc, that's what we'll be discussing today. The purpose of the Shit Gets Real arc is to intensify the narrative in the most balanced way possible. This means that we want the audience to have a villain that gives the hero lots of room to grow and improve, but we don't want the hero getting too strong, nor do we want the villain to absolutely trounce them. There are exceptions for the latter where the threat is so strong the hero can only chip away at it, which is what we're going to talk about a bit today. Another misstep I often find in arcs akin to this isn't that the hero feels weak, but in fact the whole threat feels pointless. This is a rare case, but one of the most damaging. Your hero looks weak, and the threat looks even weaker. The balance of a Shit Gets Real arc is very much like wrestling booking. The right guy has to go over at the right time on the right opponent. So then, what are we discussing to- Oh, god damn it. Alright, steel yourself, Michael, you can do this. It's not that I don't like Hunter x Hunter. I do, it's a fine show, honestly. It's good, but it's just okay. I don't see the hype. You can fall again! I'm not gonna take you, just go away! My name's Michael, this is Building the Arc, this is Hunter x Hunter's Yorknew City arc. Let's fucking do it! Alright. Recenter. Refocus. And I'm back. I do have my apprehensions with doing Yorknew City, not because I don't like Hunter x Hunter, quite the contrary in fact. Since this is my favorite shonen ever, I have the opposite issue. I'm terrified that I'm gonna gush way too hard about Yorknew, because it's just so goddamn wonderful. But I will try and give an unbiased praising of this arc. Our piece for today is, if you're gonna have a fight, make it count. Like we discussed last time, fights are a core discipline to master when creating a great shonen. Problem is, sometimes authors like to give every character a fight, even when it's unnecessary. For relevancy's sake, look at Bleach. A major criticism I see hurled towards its latter bits is that there are too many fights that go nowhere and serve no purpose but to have another fight. So, how does Hunter x Hunter exemplify this? Well, how about you sit there and let me fucking speak? Damn! Kids these days ain't got no patience for nothing. On their my phones, romancing their waifus and shit. Don't know about real... First, like always, some history. After coming out of his Three Kings saga-induced catatonia, Yoshihiro Togashi blasted back onto the manga scene with Hunter x Hunter in 1998, and was met with an immediate warm reception. Quick side note, can we talk about how great of a year 98 was for manga? So many awesome series debuted around that time, like Shaman King, Uzumaki, Fruit Baskets, Blame, and especially Vagabond. I mention this because Hunter x Hunter and Vagabond have some interesting similarities. Since Vagabond was written by Takehiko Inoue, who also wrote Slam Dunk, a series that debuted the same year as Togashi's Yu Yu Hakusho, this means that both Togashi and Inoue had their two most popular manga debut in the same year as each other, almost a decade apart. The other cool fact is that both of these manga will never fucking end! If anyone knows one thing about hiatus, it's that Jesus Christ, it lives up to that name. More power to Togashi. I know that if I worked on a manga for 165 hours a week and used the extra 3 to contemplate death, I'd take my damn time putting out content. But overall, the hiatuses don't really bother me too much, since what we already have of the series is just so damn good. Like I said, this is my favorite shonen, and for good reason. It almost transcends the genre in the same way Fullmetal Alchemist does. But I like Hunter x Hunter that little bit more for a multitude of different reasons I don't feel the need to go into right now. Whenever I recommend Hunter x Hunter to friends, I always say, okay, look, if you don't like the Hunter exam or Heaven's Arena, I get it. Honestly, please, just hold out until the end of Yorknew. And if you don't like the series by then, you are welcome to drop it because you probably won't like the rest of it. Yorknew is one of the strongest make it or break it points in any anime. There is a very good chance this whole arc could have been crap, but Togashi managed to hit every pitch thrown right out of the park on this one. There are so many times I've told my friends to just hold out, and they hit me back with the holy fuck, you are so right. This arc saves lives, people. Why don't you just accept it's amazing already? I think a good way to examine this arc is to give points where Togashi could have fumbled it and instead scored a touchdown. I think that format would help convey that not only this arc, but a majority of the series should not work one iota, but it does. And that's what's so fascinating about Hunter x Hunter. It's like the little engine that could of shonen manga. It just really should fucking stop, but keeps going. And honestly, I just appreciate its effort. In previous videos, whenever I've discussed interesting power structures in shonen, I always come back to referencing Nen. I do this for a good reason. Nen is goddamn perfect. It is genuinely the best power structure in a shonen manga, fight me, I dare you. Just everything about it, from its rule set to its applications, just the evolution of Nen itself makes it feel so natural while still being so unique. It's strikingly realistic for how fantastical it is, kind of like how in chemistry you can look at how one action makes another function and understand the logic. There are very few holes in Nen's rules. I compare it to a science, but it's in fact closer to a martial art in more ways than one. It's all about discipline and self-control. All the techniques remind me of things like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Taekwondo. I think that's a really fascinating way to structure magic horseshit to make it feel real. So with such a sick set of abilities, what does Togashi do with it? Well, he waits about 50 chapters and about 30 anime episodes to actually get to showing us Nen. Not exactly putting your best foot forward. Or so you would think! Foolish baby boy! Lord Togashi knows all manga and manga-related techniques. See what I mean? I'm getting too into this. Holding off Nen's introduction until Heaven's Arena actually works in the series' favor, since for the Hunter exam, we don't really know what a hunter is or what they do. Gon just wants to become a hunter to find out what makes the job so amazing that it caused Ging to leave him. So having Nen be this kind of secret test solidifies that maybe there's more to being a hunter and by extension, more to discover about the world than we first thought. In all fairness, the basics of Nen are laid out in Heaven's Arena, which is demonstrably not this arc, but Yorknew gives the audience the first real taste of Nen abilities. Nen abilities are just so damn sweet. And they all have this really cool aura surrounding them, since they all fit the personality of the user so well. You can learn about someone's Nen ability and immediately get a read on who they are, no problem. And of all the characters Togashi chose to show off the strength of Nen with, we have the Phantom Troupe, which brings me to my next point, paying off a backstory early. It's pretty well known that Kurapika has the classic family dead, need revenge, details later backstory that dates back to ancient Greek tragedies. When I started the series, I thought this would be something that Pika would constantly be dealing with, bringing up, and oh look, it's the people we mentioned killed his clan. Wait, it's the what now? Yeah, the Phantom Troupe rolling up and Kurapika, spoiler, killing 2 of its members, kind of comes off like a bit of a shock. Once again, I will say, this should not work. Normally, someone would see their major antagonist, lose horribly, then get stronger. Not in this case. Kurapika honestly wins at the end of this arc, at least in the immediate sense. So why doesn't his backstory feel hollow or lacking when it was so quickly paid off in this way? Well, frankly, that's because it's not. This is fairly obvious to anyone who's caught up with the manga, but Kurapika is still hunting those scarlet eyes and Chrollo is still kicking. Togashi was wise not to blow his load, but to show you that yes, Kurapika is strong enough to take on the troop. That's the point of killing Uvogin first. Since he's the troop's physically strongest member, it shows the audience that Kurapika definitely has a one-up on the rest of them. While I'm here, since I can't fit it in any of these other points I got planned out, let me just take you aside and talk about the MVPs of this arc, that being the Phantom Troop themselves. Holy hell am I super gay for the troop. They are flat out my favorite villain group in any shonen manga, only rivaled by the Espada and the Sensui 7. Individually, every character is interesting, unique, and threatening. This stretches from their design down to their core personalities. There's something magnetic about each of them that draws the audience to want to find out more, but there's also this looming sense of danger that keeps the audience cautious of learning anything about them. What really brings it all together, though, is how the troop acts as a team. The inner dynamics and politics of the Phantom Troop are so fascinating to watch because it feels like an establishment with its own laws and guidelines. Basically apply what I said about Nen to a group of characters, and that's what the troop feels like. The other part of it is, the troop aren't exclusively villains, they're human. They can be silly, serious, happy, and sad. They run the gamut of emotions in this arc alone, and we see in Greed Island and the Chimeran arc that they aren't necessarily just a bunch of assholes. They aren't good people, don't get me wrong, they're psychopaths, but the troop are great characters. Except Cordopi. Cordopi can go fuck himself. The troop may be great, but if introduced to the story with Gon as their enemy, I feel like they wouldn't work as well. That's why we have Kurapika. This is also another point where this arc should have failed, in that it shifted focus to a new protagonist. Now, swapping focuses for shonen manga can either make or break a series. A good example of a recent success is Dr. Stone focusing more on Senku than Taiju. Other times it can lead to unfulfilled plotlines, hollow characterization, and an immediate relaxing of tension for all the worst reasons. However, in Hunter x Hunter, switching to Kurapika's point of view makes perfect sense, since if we only saw the arc through Gon's eyes, it'd be really boring because all he's doing is learning Nen and bargain hunting for an overpriced PS1 game, which, trust me, as a collector myself, I know the pain. More importantly, is we would agree with Gon that Pika's being a dick for not telling him or letting him assist in fighting the troop. See this is all wrong. We should not be bored and we should not agree with Gon 100% here. Seeing the story through Kurapika's viewpoint makes it so that we have a more interesting narrative since it's one that directly involves and is about him, and 2, we understand just how much of a threat the troop is. When we see Gon try to help and ultimately fail, we understand the gap in power between the two parties, making all interactions between Gon and the spiders that much tenser. I kinda love Kurapika as a narrative device, since he is the light over the next hill for Gon. What I mean is that whenever we want to mark Gon's progression, we can always compare it to what Kurapika was like when he reached the same benchmark. It's kind of like a nudge to the audience saying, yeah man, you see that? You see him? That little boy is gonna grow up just to be like that guy. This is actually more of a thematic growth than a literal one, especially when we're discussing the Chimeran arc, but hold yourself back, Michael, another day. The way Togashi shows the audience moral ambiguity through Pika and the troop's mini-war is just flooring, mostly because he does it in such a small amount of moves. That brings me to our last point and the reason this arc works so well for me: the lack of fights. Like I am quick to reiterate, fighting in shonen manga are like crackers and cheese, peanut butter and jelly, me and wasting money. Just universal constants that need one with the other in most cases. So why the fuck does this arc only have 3 fights? Well, homie, that's because all 3 of those fights mean something big. I want to take this from least to most impactful for me personally and honestly on the narrative as a whole. First, Uvogin versus the Shadow Beast. Straight up, the Shadow Beasts are lame. Their designs are ugly, which is probably intentional. They aren't super interesting since they're set up in the lazy way of, oh, you don't know the Shadow Beasts? Well, brother, you gots to know, so let me explain, which is lazy and bad, and I won't pretend it's not. This whole fight is just a squash match if I want to dredge up the wrestling comparison again. Showing off the strength of just one troop member makes it so that the audience can only imagine how frighteningly powerful the rest of them must be combined. The next is the fight between the Zoldycks and Crollo. I really enjoy this fight, but I don't have a whole lot to say that you can't glean from the fight itself. Crollo really is a powerhouse, and he shows it off in this fight. He isn't just some slick-looking cat with a sweet coat. He is a goddamn machine, and to be able to hold off both Zeno and Silva is definitely no small feat. Now, if it were Maha he was dealing with, we'd be talking a different kind of language, and I'm just going to move on. I just like this fight more than the one with the Shadow Beast because I'm a big Chrollo fan, and this puts him over in a huge way. And that ending interaction between Zeno and Chrollo about Chrollo probably being able to take Zeno in a fight if he had the intention of killing him is such a cool way to end it, and also just a really good way of making Chrollo feel like a threat. And now, the big one. The fight that pretty much everyone knows from this arc, Kurapika versus Uvogin. What a fight. I could probably do a whole video just talking about this one fight. And who knows, I might. But suffice it to say, there's a lot to unpack here. The shifting morality between Uvo and Pika, where the former becomes a brave soul protecting his friends, and the latter a soulless killer ripping the life out of this world simply due to his own selfish wants and desires. When I phrase it like that, Uvo sounds like a pretty noble guy. That is, before you remember he and his friends are a bunch of ruthless killers, and exactly the same thing that Kurapika is becoming. That's probably why Kurapika is a manga character I always look fondly upon. I love the old story of revenge made me into what I hate the most. It always works for me, and I feel like Kurapika is one of the best examples of that, and shonen manga particularly. Also, the man brought a shovel to a fight because he knew he was going to clap some cheeks. What a badass. I know I'm kind of at a loss for words of what to say for these fights, but you really gotta experience the action for yourself to get what I mean here. The audience is subliminally fed so much information through what is about 20 minutes or so fighting at the beginning, middle, and end of this arc. Togashi didn't even have to sit you down and lecture you about it, like what I'm doing right now. Hey wait. Anything Togashi can't convey in those three fights is conveyed through the negotiations and espionage that this arc is built around. I love the way Yorknew prefers more mind games and outwitting enemies to just fisticuffs and mindless brawling. Hunter x Hunter as a series is just good at creating really smart characters and setting up situations where those smart characters can really have it out with each other. With our bases covered and our piece built, let me just have this one, okay? I just want to gush about why I love this arc so fucking much. I swear, it'll only take a little bit, then you can leave, I promise. Okay? Okay. Before I do that, I want to get some negatives out of the way so I don't seem like a huge fanboy, which admittedly I am. But, alright, negatives. Gon and Killua are kind of uninteresting to follow until they get involved with the troop, but it is a necessary evil. Leorio is just there for most of the arc and doesn't really contribute. Same for Mr. Zetpile, even though I like both of these characters very much indeed. Finally, I think the whole Mafia bodyguard plotline is a little bit lame and just an excuse to get Kurapika to where he needs to be. But I think Melody and Basho are cool, so I can let that go. Am I in the clear? Are you sure you want to listen to a 19-year-old man-child talk about one of his favorite Japanese comic books? Okay, I take your silent viewing as a yes. Holy fuck, I love pretty much everything about this arc in almost every conceivable way possible. I love the aesthetics of a metropolitan area at night. I love the way the troop interacts amongst themselves and with Gon and Killua especially. The arm wrestling scene against Nobunaga is one of the greatest moments of Hunter x Hunter, and honestly, just one of the best parts of living. And, you know, if I'm being conservative about it, I think it's the most important moment of mankind's history. And, you know, while I'm talking about them, the troop, holy shit. Guys, just straight up, oh my God, I fucking love Pakunoda so much. She's one of my favorite characters in the series, and as for the little time she spends in the story, she feels so fleshed out and full of life, which makes her, spoiler, death even that much more impactful, especially accounting for the fact that she's a major antagonist. It just comes out of fucking nowhere, and that makes her just best girl in general. And on top of that, Chrollo is just such a good antagonist. He's mysterious, edgy, and overall just intriguing in all the best ways. I just adore pretty much everything about his design, his character, his abilities, and just... Let me dial back a bit just so I can spooge about something in this arc that I admire in a more constructive and comprehensive way. It goes something like this. So, back in my One Piece video, I short-sightedly named moments that make you feel every emotion that can be felt at once and change the way you view a series as One Piece moments. This was a naive and conspicuous way for me to try and suck Ichiro Oda's meat. And Lord knows, one day I will have it. So I want to take this opportunity to officially rename these kind of moments to simply fuck. because that is exactly what you say to yourself when something like this happens in an anime. The Requiem for Uvogin is one of the all-time great sequences in any anime, full stop. Speaking on the 2011 anime particularly, everything from the animation to the music to the action to Chrollo dropping some sick rhymes like it's open mic night at the cafe, it all pulls together to create an unforgettable few minutes of anime sublimity. This solidifies the troupe as one of the biggest threats anyone in the Hunter x Hunter universe could face, and it is just c'est magnifique. Ew, French. Now that that's all settled and my French is hopefully beaten out of me, I want to wrap this up in a nice bow by saying, please go watch Hunter x Hunter. Or read it. Fuck it. Anything. Just experience this series. If you're on the fence about watching it, just go for it. You will not be disappointed. And if you didn't like it your first time around, consider what I've said and give it a watch with some fresh eyes. Maybe you'll like it a bit more. Hunter x Hunter is an overrated series, and rightfully so. It's hard to properly gauge how objectively good something is when subjectively it hits all the right notes. Now hop in, we're leaving the city and heading into another city. God damn it! Because next time on Building the Arc, we're going to do it all again with D. Grayman's Rewinding City arc. My name is Michael, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Have a good night, or morning, whatever day it is for you, I don't fucking know.